Hello, Detroit. Hello, good evening to you all. This is Aaliyah Moore. I'm not going to be on long at all, but after meetings, I just want to come and give Detroit, just a little detail of what's going on, just in case you missed the meeting. When I say meeting, I am talking about Detroit Public Schools Community District, DPSCD. Today there was a community meeting. It started at 4. It was virtual from 4:30 to 6 p.m. I did have to take a call, so I got off roughly after 5:20. Vidi, which is our superintendent, Nikolai Vidi, he did the presentation from roughly 4:30 till about a little bit after 5, and then the illusion of questions and answers. But this is something different going on, Detroit, because with this login for this meeting, it was through Microsoft. So, usually when he does his presentations, or, our week president does her presentations on Microsoft, the chat is open so you can freely see questions and answers. And even though staff may answer them, not, through the chat, you still see everything. This particular meeting, the chat was blocked. So until he got through speaking, you couldn't enter the chat. And then it wasn't even a chat. It was like a question and answer column where you put your question. And Nikolai Vidi said, staff will be answering. And if it's a good question, they'll say it out loud or mention it or whatever. But it's like, there's no such thing as a stupid question. We stakeholders, we asked it. So it's like, they don't really want us to see what we're asking. Or he said, you can put your comments in or whatever. It's the same thing, and so I was happy to get off because I saw what type of meeting this was. I did post some of the slides, and some of these slides he also presented in this past financial meeting this past Friday. If anything, I'm going to tell you 3 things, Detroit, and then I'm gone for today. We must watch this $94.4 million from this literacy lawsuit. We must watch it. Because if I didn't post that slide, I will after this live. But of course, we all know this is one-time funding. If nobody knows, the district, moms, students, community members, they sued the district for the right to read, the right to have literacy. Okay, they won. So the state of Michigan is awarding, or they sued the state, but the state is awarding the district a reimbursement. And Vidi he said it today, but Friday he said nothing about a reimbursement. When I asked in public comment a couple of meetings ago, because he kept saying it and the district never stopped him from saying it. But, we got to wait on this money and hopefully we'll get it. We're not waiting on $94.4 million, Detroit. It is here. We have to spend it to get it reimbursed, and the state will reimburse it. But the key is what Vidi wants to do, and it seems that this board is like, okay, go ahead. He wants to use this literacy money to either do maintenance on buildings and repairs, add in nurses, and people hear that, they're like, oh, nurses is good, which it is. But this was a literacy lawsuit, okay? This money was won on the backs of our kids that did not have the rights to learn, to read, to have books. When the EAA schools, they didn't have books. So it's just, and I said this at a public comment before, I told the board, and others have told them, don't play with this literacy money. And Detroit, that's what we need to watch out for. Secondly, we need to watch out for this. We need to watch out for just the overall district itself, but specifically the enrollment. Vidi and this board, like I said before, ultimately by 2027, Most of our cohort schools, now if nobody knows what those are, look in my notes, look in my previous videos, look in my slides, the slides that I posted from a previous meeting. We have a list of cohort schools. By 2027, some of those schools will be closed. Some of these schools will be combined. Because like I said before, the district is not banking on new enrollment for any grade levels. As he said in this meeting tonight, the district is going to, put everything into gaining pre-K students for the next 3 to 4 years. They're not trying to gain thousands. They're expecting 335 new students this year for pre-K. But then in the same note, VD can say, Sonia Mays, which is our treasurer, can say that they don't believe that, and they know that our city is declining in population. They have no clue where these new kids are coming from, these new pre-K students. So it's just something for you to think about, Detroit. But ultimately, they are blaming the state. They are blaming America for our inequitable funding. He had a slide talking about Bloomfield and Ann Arbor and this and that and their funding. We all know suburban schools get funded differently than, inner city schools. Even with the increase that Gresham Whitmore has given, that's not enough for this district. The one-time money that COVID had, most of that, $700 million, is gone to facilities. But Detroit, it was a question today. When is AC going to be in every school? 5 years. 5 years. Okay? With the exception of 10 schools that he said won't have AC in the next 5 years because the building, whatever, they won't have it. 10 schools, but the remaining 90 plus will get AC in the next 5 years. Buildings that are scheduled to be built will not start with building until 2025. Like I said before, Paul Robeson's new building is expected to be completed in 2027. So this is a strong number, 2027, you all. You may say, oh, that's a little bit away, but you got to understand and remember again, this is the third point. By 2025, because he didn't mention this, but I'm going to keep mentioning it. By 2025, the district, letting Nikolai Vitti do it, the board, wants to minimize as much as possible the use of textbooks. Okay? It has said that our high schoolers have been surveyed. They don't want books. Never told us to survey. Never said when the students were surveyed. But that they don't want books and that we have to compete in this virtual world. Okay? So those are the 3 key points. But I'm going to hey Nurse Michelle, how are you? Hey Miss Watkins, how are you? But lastly, I'm going to say this. Nikolai Vitti and his board are just slowly killing us off. I don't even know how else to say it, because the things that he says in this meeting through these slides, he's just contradicting himself. How are you going to expect a full staff when you're already laying off? When you have these this hostile work environment district-wide, okay? When you hire people in central office that can come into school, reprimand and disrespect stakeholders, and so far nothing is done, it's setting a tone. Just the arrogance of this board, along with Nikolai Vitti, the contradicting of the, what he says versus the slides. I don't know, Detroit. I mean, what I do know is if you plan to keep your child in this district, which I do, she's going to the 8th. We only got a little ways to go. Like I said, you have to plug your children in to things outside of the district. You have to. Because going into 2023-24 school year, just know that your school's budget, what was given to your principals to run the school, is going to be a lot cheaper and a lot less, I should say, not cheaper, but it will be a lot less money given from this previous school year. And, to be fair, the COVID money was allocated to schools. The per pupil funding was increased. But I'm just going to use this example because I used it at a meeting. For Bates Academy, when their music teacher, it was said that their second music teacher, one that had been there for years, experience, she got up at the last school board meeting and pretty much pleaded for her job. I knew they were going to blame, and when I say they, I knew Vidi and the board allowed him to blame that principal for letting that music teacher go. But you have to understand, Detroit, principals get their budget from where? Central office. The board, along with Jeremy Vidito, which is the financial guy, along with the leadership of Dr. Nikolai Viti, they give these schools funds, okay? If you don't give your school enough funding, you leave those quote unquote tough decisions to be made by the principal, and then you blame the principal. How can that principal at Bates keep that second teacher when he has to, give or take? It becomes a give or take with his regular staff. Who's he going to keep? Who's he going to lose? So you put principals in a messed up situation, which stakeholders, if they're not engaged and informed in the process, they blame the principal. But then you have a board that allows the superintendent to blame the principal. Oh, he said it. Vidi said it. Oh, that principal can keep that person if they want. Yeah, they can keep that music teacher, but what does he have to lose to make his budget balance? So for Bates, if anybody know, Bates Academy, that's where Vidi had his children before he took them out of the district. Had some of his children anyway. But if you know any parents, I don't even know the status of that music teacher's career right now. But that's just one example of showing you how manipulative and how, strategic this thing is, because ultimately they're going to kill us off softly, and they're going to blame the parents for not bringing their children. They're going to blame the students, for not retaining information, not rising. And then they're ultimately going to blame the teacher for not helping the students rise. And that's going to be the demise of these cohort schools, because apparently they've been given 6 years to get it right. They're still failing, because ultimately cohort means failing schools. Okay. And the talk is not about that right now, because the illusion is to say, we're doing good. No schools are closing, but ultimately, if this district is not, trying to increase enrollment, they're only going to provide the extras for extreme situations. So you have to be homeless, you have to be, stranded, down and out pretty much, to get the bus tickets and the resources. But Detroit, I don't know. I do know, but I don't know. But I do, and I will say and emphasize, if you keep your child in this district, you got to go outside this district to get some resources. Going into 23-24, summer school, and that's another thing that they wanted to use is $94.4 million, which is good. Summer school activities, after school programming. But for right now, because they're not going to spend that money, that's going to be a problem as well, because after school, from what he said, going into this year is only going to focus on ELA and maybe some math. So once again, you're going to blame the principals for not supplying these programs, but you give them a budget that won't allow them. And then you blame the state and America for not giving you equitable funding. But even you cannot spend the money that was given in the right way. Where's Beyond Basics, people, before I get off this live? We also need to know that Beyond Basics was a company that was supposed to be helping our children rise. Nikolai Vidi's wife was on the board of that company. That company used, I believe, either between 11 to 14 million dollars to tutor less than 700 students. Even though his wife is supposedly gone from that company, Beyond Basics, we're still utilizing them. So they're still raping us, really, literally, getting all this money and not even touching, what, 10% of our students? 10%? Where's the success of this year? Nobody has said anything about Beyond Basics and the success stories of their program helping our high schoolers. I'm out of here, y'all. Before I leave, though, there is another meeting that will be at East English Village. It's still a community budget meeting, and then the following week is our school board meeting. Detroit, you need to know, even though school is out on the 9th, the school board meets year round. So there's going to be a meeting in July, in August, and then we back at it. You know, they don't stop. It's 12 months every month. So I just encourage you to stay engaged. If you don't do anything else but watch my videos, share them, talk to people about them. But my message hasn't changed. You know, I appreciate teachers, you know, the ones that are still, you know, like I said, have that steam and have that push to fight. You know, they kind of waiting on that leader because you don't have the union. Second to nothing, really. Little to nothing, I should say. But I just appreciate the ones that are still, you know, have that push and that fight to fight, you know. But the parents that do have relationships with their parents, you know, talk to these parents. Be real with these parents. Let them know what's really going on. You know, the district can't stop your mouth, you know, and you're off the clock. So communicate with the parents that you do communicate with. The ones that you don't, you can't worry about them. Parents that you do communicate with these teachers, talk to your teachers, you know, because, and ultimately talk to your students. It would be great to see more students come in for this June board meeting and really express themselves and, you know, talk about the lack of, or, you know, people missing in these positions and, you know, their fear of going in these buildings and not being fully staffed. But I don't know. I don't know. But I'm still optimistic. Like I said, I'm not going anywhere. And that's just the thing, you know, regardless of what this district has not given my child, it's my responsibility as a parent to go out here and seek further programs if I plan to keep my daughter in this system, which I do, you know, because she does have good teachers. She has a good resource teacher. And like I said, she got 1 year, 8th grade, and then we go into high school. So that's another challenge, looking into a high school, making sure that, you know, it's going to be intact. You know what I'm saying? And have what we can get. Not what we can get, like just accepting it, but I'm speechless, Detroit. But I am anticipating, I don't think I'll make the next meeting. I think it's Wednesday because it is at East English, but you never know. But I am anticipating the next school board meeting and just periodically just popping up in the different spaces and just starting the conversations, because that's really what it's all about. Us talking, networking, getting this information out to people that have been tricked, that have been fooled, that are non-engaged, or, you know, just engaged on a district level, you know. And we have quite a bit of parents that are like that, where, you know, they are extremely engaged in the district, but they're not engaged in the district issues, and it's a big difference. And that has also been set up that way, you know. Sherlonda Buckman from the FACE department, she's the superintendent of family and community engagement. It's set up that way, you know. Like I said, her, Krista Wilson, all these people, the lawyer, Miss Janice, all these things are set up And it's very strategic, even down to the planning of how this meeting was conducted and how stakeholders were not even able to see other stakeholders' questions and concerns unless the district, aka Crystal Wilson, deemed it, to be seen. Who are you? This is a dictatorship, okay? But the transparency is supposed to be there. But this is a straight up dictatorship, And VD prided himself on not being like an emergency manager. That man is exactly like an emergency manager. And we have such weak leadership in our weak president, Angelique Mayberry Peterson, and our volunteer vice president sitting in the breastfeeding room, Miss Misha Stallworth West. So you all have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your night. Congratulations again to every 2023 graduate or moving on or whatever accomplishment you have made this year. If you're graduating, please don't forget your district. If possible, try to give back or at least speak on the behalf of your former classmates. Because right now it's all hands on deck. It ain't about my kid ain't in the district. It ain't about, oh, that's my church member, but I ain't got no kids in the district. We all one right now. And if we don't do anything, Detroit, if we don't say anything, Detroit, we cannot complain when we start seeing these changes. Because they're showing us and they're telling us. It's just a matter of it actually going into play. And it's not just me. It's many other advocates in this city, woke citizens that know what's going on. And they advocate in different ways because everybody don't do what I do. But everybody has a part to play, and you have the opportunity to create change. Everybody does. In whatever capacity and whatever way you choose to stand for these children, we got to do it. Grown people got to stand for grown people. I can't advocate for teachers. I'm a parent. I'm not a teacher. I don't make teacher money. I didn't go to school to get certified and qualified for what I do. But y'all grown. At what point is enough enough? Like I said, the solution for some teachers is leaving the district, retiring. We thank you for your service. We appreciate you greatly. But for those ones that are sticking around, don't, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm just being honest. I don't want to hear the sob stories. I don't want to hear them coming into 23, 24 when you don't have a parapro in your class because they're stuck in the lunchroom or they're in pre-K or they have quit. I don't want to hear, can I watch your class while you go use the bathroom? I don't want to hear that because when you had an opportunity to stand for your colleague, you did nothing. I don't want to hear it, So, people can be tired of being sick and tired. I've been consistently in this fight since 2012 when emergency management came and closed Oakman Orthopedic. I have taken breaks, but I have not stopped. It is not in me to stop. I can't judge and criticize anybody who has stopped the fight. But as I always say, don't discourage anybody from trying to speak truth to power and raise their concerns and have a voice. If you're not going to do it, do you. But don't hate on that next person that has that in them to do it, because that's what it's going to take. We can be fooled. Others can be fooled with this performance today because that's all it is. It's a performance. And just know, and I'm gone, y'all. The district is now doing these presentations for these schools that are slotted to get new schools. They're coming to schools with an hour and 15-minute meeting. Marshawn Jackson, as I stated in another live, she came to our school telling us, the district won the lottery, so we just gonna be hood rich. I said the hood rich part, but that's pretty much what she was saying. We're gonna deal with the buildings and the cosmetics, but then you have a mom in our meeting asking about speech therapy. She said a new building is cool, but what about more speech therapy? What about more this and that? So, Just watch out for those meetings. She brought one gift card to give away. You know, all these millions of dollars, and Marshawn Jackson brings one $50 gas card, and you're trying to engage with the community with one gas card. And the whole meeting was rushed. Okay, so enjoy your night. The main focus is the meeting coming up at East English, which will probably be a repeat of today's, and then the board meeting next Tuesday. I'll post those if you can get on virtually, if you can go in person. If you're not interested, but you know somebody that is, give them the information. That's all I got, Detroit. So we down but not out. And I know that things are working behind the scenes. So I am confident in that. And that keeps me going, you know. People sharing information with me, encouraging me, that keeps me going. The relationship that I have with God, I mean, he's the main one. He keeps me going in this, even when I question myself on why, or, you know, is it even worth it? But I know it is. But it's just sometimes it's human nature. You know, you have those days where you like, forget it, you know. But I can't. You know, ever since 2012, I can't. And until I'm moved in another way, this is where I'm at. So as I say, I always thank people for watching my live, whether your comments are positive, negative, it's still comments, and I appreciate them. I appreciate everybody that shares or just watches to the end. So we got to do it, Detroit, and it's still possible. But the main thing for this board meeting coming up is the actual vote for the budget, which I don't see how all these decisions are being made without the vote for the budget. But who am I? Just a parent. Have a good night, Detroit.